homeowners who bought recently, what's your biggest regret? We bought in mid-2021, so sure if this counts as recently. We're very happy with having bought a house when we did 2.7 30-year fixed, however, I regret buying a fixer-upper instead of just a more expensive house, particularly because we could have afforded it. We just were gun shy about spending so much money already. 1.3 M fucking Bay Area. We've already put another $200,000 into it already, still have probably another $50,000 of $100,000 before we're done. We should have just spent the $1.5 up front, bought a better house and just lived with a slightly higher monthly payment. I bought a house and entered into the contract a week before meeting my current girlfriend, and we are very serious together. I regret it because she recently moved back home 2 hours away and has an apartment there. And due to her industry there are no companies in her field where I live. So basically I would either have to sell the house, which is a pain in the ass and probably a net loss, or she has to sacrifice her current career path. I wish I would have known a week before making an offer, because then I would have stopped searching for houses where my career is located. I bought a few years ago. So many things have gone sideways. One thing I regret is not being educated about permits. Contractors, handymen, anyone who works in your house really never mentions a permit may be needed. Learned that it's up to me and me alone to do the research and phone calls. Currently have a job on hold because they needed a permit. The company blamed me and now I'm not sure they're even going to do the work. Watch the movie The Money Pit. It's not that far off. Some days I wish I'd just be a renter, not putting a camera through the drain system during the inspections. The neighborhood was coming up on 50 years old and all the houses were built with cast iron pipes that were reaching end of life. We managed to get the house below asking right as the market was starting to catch fire in 2020, so realistically we weren't going to get much more on concessions, but finding out a year later that we had a foreseeable $35,000 repair looming that would also require tearing up a lot of the landscaping was pretty not cool. Not paying another month's rent to stay at the place we were leaving. Have a lot of DIY drywall repairs to redo correct finish, and it would have been much easier to do that in paint before living in the house. I'm not a drywall pro, so there's a lot of dust. Even got a contractor lined up to do it quickly so I could deal with the mess once and was ghosted. Then you run into all the other stuff that pops up, and here I am 3 months later not even close to done. So a little more time would have been nice. Trusting family to be present for the inspection and sure when they had no clue what to look for. I was entirely too pregnant to travel, so I relied on my partner and in-laws to get a sense of the house. Growing up around construction all my life, I knew what things to look for that would have changed my mind about our house. It's stuff that we can live with, but will be thousands of dollars down the line to get fixed. The previous owners of this house did not properly care of the home in the slightest sense. I think I did really good on my first home purchase earlier this year. My main regret is not a regret really. I just think the 90s kitchen dimensions are really constrained and I wish we had a bit more cabinet and even vertical space. The ceiling is not particularly high and there's ductwork against the walls. Overall, I'm really positively impressed by this house. Not a single crack in the basement, or anywhere, bought on the driveway, not even a crack in any bricks, not one. 31-year-old house, bought in January 2022. 3.75 interest. Rates went up just a month later. Biggest regret is where we bought. Relocated for work, and after some time we've realized we want to be in a different state closer to family. To make matters worse, I don't get along with my neighbor. We want to leave, but every day we become more established. I make great money, but with price inflation and rates I'll never get even remotely close to what we have again. It's a first world problem, but it sucks not buying sooner before the interest rates jumped so fast. When we put the offer in on our house in April 2022, the rate was 3.2. By the time we closed in June 2022, we closed at 5.25. Edit correcting myself here, we started looking in March 2022 and the rates then were around 3.2-3.5. By the time we locked our rate in with all the paperwork, it was up to 5.125. We closed with 3 days to spare on the rate lock because the owners were being annoying with the closing date, that I didn't keep the home I had and refinance when the rates were very low. Instead we sold our home and bought a new home when the rates were high. Mobile homes in my area are now selling for over $200,000. That's about what I paid for a 4-bedroom, 3 full bathroom home, with an office and separate dining room 12 years ago. Homeowners insurance is through the roof in Florida and several companies are leaving the state. Now is not a good time to be a homeowner in Florida. Bought 1.5 years ago. For us, house buying is about compromises. I'll never be able to afford what I want. One in lakefront with a boat dock. Bought a 3BR3 level 2,000 square feet house without a garage in the woods on 1/2 acre that has a community access path to a 2,300 acre lake that's a 3-minute golf cart ride down to our boat dock. Paid $380K in April 2021. 3.8. $12K for boat dock build. I regret not doing it sooner. Gonna need a bigger boat. Buying a house with a pool was a great buying point at the time and used it a lot at first, but I used it maybe 3-4 times this year. It's a ton of upkeep, maintenance, and repairs. Yesterday I dove down in the freezing cold water because I have a leak somewhere and losing about 250 gallons of water a day. I suspect the pipe connecting the main drain at the bottom of the deep end is cracked, so plugged it up. Know someone with a pool, don't own one. I see people staggering under mortgages that are easily $60, $100K over the value of the houses they have in my wretchedly poor southern state. There was a bubble from the time COVID mostly subsided until interest rates from the war made it too expensive to overbid. It burst, although sometimes houses sell for silly amounts. Also, I see people that overpaid for horrifically defective homes during the bubble that never would normally have sold at all. I have no regrets. Buying property is never a bad idea unless you can afford the monthly payment. It beats paying rent that increases every year and you get nothing in return for it. You can always refinance, but you can never change the purchase price, so you win some you lose some at either end of things. I guess I wish I had more money to hire people to fix things so I didn't have to do it myself. But that's just how it is sometimes. This is going to sound weird, but my biggest non-regret is not buying a few years ago. I would have been able to swing the mortgage and even had cushion. But I couldn't have anticipated the property insurance rate skyrocketing. I'm not thrilled with where I'm renting, but my rent is cheap and it hasn't gone up and won't. If I was in a house dealing with an extra $400 a month in insurance, along with inflation, I would be freaking out. Not learning more about home maintenance before buying and moving in. Nothing major has happened thankfully, but after a few years I've realized how little I actually know about taking care of a house and how it's affecting my utilities and comfort. Not to a degree where I regret buying the house, but if I could go back and do it all again, I'd take care of something sooner differently and would probably have better results. Not too recently, 3 years ago, but I regret buying my parents' house. Everything needs to be replaced now. We replaced very expensive custom windows and found that the frames were all rotted and we had to redo a ton of stucco. That was the tip of the iceberg we have yet to tackle. It was a no-brainer for the price and equity, but now we're stuck with how shitty the market is and all the things we need to fix in order to sell. I bought this year. Aside from the obvious not having bought for the past 10 years, I suppose not having a plumber specifically come to inspect prior to closing, I ended up with $6K in plumbing costs within a month or two. But it was a calculated risk. I had to do information only to get accepted anyways. Having a house is pretty sick, just be sure you have enough in reserves on top of the already insane costs. That I didn't borrow a bit extra to have a buffer for things like house repairs and rates. We literally borrowed the minimum we needed for the house and put every cent of savings into it. I'm definitely regretting doing that. Now with cost of living and rate rises, we no longer have the ability to save anything significant by the end of each month, so any repairs and extras are going to take forever to save for. Oh, of course there are a few things that are hard for me to let go about my ignorance during the purchasing process, but I wake up every morning to a gorgeous view in a relatively quiet part of town. Plus, my pups get their own space to get their zoomies out. I'd do it again, just armed with better knowledge, lol. I appreciate the positive outlook on a bleak night. Congratulations on your home too. First world problem here. Our wish list was a master on Maine, but we relented because the house we bought was great in every other way. Not really a regret, but I wish we had a master on Maine. My pup is 13 and had never had issues going up and down stairs until he almost fell. Had the flu and going upstairs to bed was like running a marathon. Oh, and the 3 raid before we sold our previous house. I wouldn't say we have any regrets. Was everything ideal? No. We had to buy in a neighborhood that we're not excited about, and obviously prices and interest rates aren't what they are. But it's hard to say I regret that because we bought when we could. I can't really regret having not done it sooner because we couldn't have. And we got most of what we wanted in terms of space. So, none, I guess. Building our dream house and being excited enough about it to overextend our comfort range a bit, leading up to an interesting renewal in a couple of years. And then seeing everyone post about how happy they are that people like us may end up losing their dream homes due to making that mistake. We're human, we finally got our chance and took it. We'll see how it goes, I guess. Not particularly recent, but we did not pull out cars in the driveway or attempt to park them. So we didn't realize that my car could only enter the driveway from one direction, so I had to turn around half the block up every time I needed to park. And we just barely got 2 cars in the driveway. So my regret is that I took for granted that the driveway met our needs, leaving our 3-interest home to buy our forever home but at the very top of our budget. And consider us house broke at the moment, waiting for interest rates to drop 5.75 and looking for additional income sources so we can actually enjoy our life. Not fun when you have to stress about eating out, every purchase, and thinking travel is non-existent for a while. I should have bought a smaller house with money left to renovate instead of a larger one with nothing left over. There are so many weird quirks with this place that I would love to change, but I'll probably have to wait 10 years. I'm doing all the changes that I can do myself, but there's just so many to do and some are way outside my knowledge base. Not surveying the area better. Street over is a meth house and it's brought a lot of crime to the area. Also, living across from a school has brought a lot of interesting things our way. The house we bought was completely remodeled and looked great. Once living here, we realized it was cheaply done. Plus we never noticed the lack of storage space,